Hi everybody, this is Sinnisj Insulator here. So I wanted to continue with the rim joist discussion. So with the rim joist, this is the first floor of my house. And of course the rim joists sit right about here. Now there is a discontinuity because of the difference in the foundation thickness and the wall that is above the foundation. So typically the outside wall is your 2x6 frame, but the block insulation comes out, or sorry, the block foundation or the concrete poured foundation of your house comes out a little bit past the outside wall. And so what happens is typically you've got this gap of no insulation if it's improperly done. In the basement, sometimes you can get that blanket, that rolled blanket, that is stapled on using a gun. So it's the new houses have an R20 rolled blanket installed, and the one thing is that if the insulator afterwards doesn't fill the pocket, that's right about here, there's potentially up to even 4 inches of no insulation on top of the concrete or the block wall. So in my case, I have a block wall foundation. It's a much older home, so 1970. And so I don't have that insulation on top. So what will happen, it's getting colder. So right now it's October, and we're going to be feeling pretty cold with that escape, that heat escape that can happen, because obviously block wall or concrete is definitely not a good insulator, and so we'll carry that heat outside, especially since the outside of my house is raised, so half of the basement is actually outside, because I have a sort of split entrance. So I'll take you outside to show you what I mean. So this section here is actually my basement, and so that's what I mean. The rim joist will sit right about here, and so that's what I mean by like the exposed outside. Typically the homes doesn't have this much basement or foundation exposed to the outside cold temperatures, and but mine does, and so it would have an even greater factor if the rim joist is not properly insulated. So my dryer is going right now, so I do apologize for the noise, but this is what I mean by those pockets like I showed in the previous video for the rim joists. And there's framing that is above, or sorry, in front of the foundation. So on top of that, I also have more wall to take care of, to make sure that there's a gap or an overlap in my insulation. So right now this is not done properly. I'll tell you right now, and I'm sure people are cringing by looking at this. But obviously spray foam is usually a good way to fill all the gaps. But most importantly, if you do get the spray foam done, the one thing that I want you guys to make sure is when you hire somebody to say, okay, you know, I want that top plate also filled with at least 2 inches of spray foam insulation, so it has a continuous gap, and so it sort of goes in, right? So if you're going to spray foam, say, your foundation wall from the inside, then you have it go up and then around on top of the top plate there, and then after that it sort of joins that rim joist, so that you have a continuous insulation, and then after that you can go up, and then of course it joins up nicely with your first floor insulation, so you have no gaps, or you have no little corners where the heat can escape. And as I mentioned from the previous video, here's another tight spot for one of the rim joists that goes right along and has a couple of heat runs actually within the cavity of the last rim joist or cavity. So hopefully by watching this video you learned a little bit more about rim joists, and we'll see you in this next video.